Welcome to Crack-A-Pack. My name is Andrew, and today we're cracking open Kaldheim. So let's get cracking. Our first card today is a wildcard token, followed by Snow-Covered Forest Farland. And then we have a foil Quakebringer, which for 3 red is a 5/4 creature. Reads, your opponents can't gain life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant. And you can foretell Quakebringer for 2 red. So Quakebringer can continue to deal 2 damage to every opponent if he's in the graveyard and you control a giant. That is kind of awesome. Getting to have that continual, just effectively a shock to every opponent, every upkeep, or every one of your upkeeps. Makes it so that even if you get rid of Quakebringer, as soon as you get another giant out, it's back online. It doesn't matter. That is really cool. And also having, as long as he's on the battlefield, your opponents can't gain life. That is going to shut down. That is going to shut people down. That is going to make recovering from him so much more difficult. And if you somehow have 2 or 3 of these, or you are able to bring him back, that's just so crippling, so punishing to have this 2 damage ping every turn, and your opponents aren't able to gain back any of that life. Whatever you have brought them down to, as long as he's out, that is the most life that they can have. That is awesome. I really like this. I'm trying to think of where I want to put him, or if I start trying to build something around him. Where have you used Quakebringer or seen Quakebringer used? Let me know in the comments below. Next we have Cosima, God of the Voyage, with the Omen Keel on the back. So Cosima, God of the Voyage, for 2 and a blue, is a 2/4 legendary creature. Reads at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Cosima. If you do, it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Cosima is exiled, you may put a voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it and draw X cards, where X is the number of voyage counters on it. And the Omen Keel is a legendary artifact for 2 and a blue, a 3/3 vehicle that reads, whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play lands from among those cards for as long as they remain exiled. And it has a crew cost of 1. Okay, so both care about lands. Cosima wants you to have lands entering the battlefield, and it can draw you cards and get pumped from, effectively from lands entering the battlefield while this is exiled. All right, so you exile it the turn after you cast it, and then you start dropping lands you just start dropping lands, and then if it's exiled, you may put a voyage counter on it. If you don't, okay, so you put a bunch of voyage counters on it. You get 3, 4, 5 turns of this exiled and a land drop every turn, and then you choose not to put a voyage counter on it that last time, and it comes back to the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters on it, and you draw X cards. So it doesn't get rid of the voyage counters, so you could, if I'm understanding this correctly, you could exile it on your upkeep, play a land, put a voyage counter on it, keep it exiled. Next turn, drop a land, don't put a voyage counter on it. It comes back, it gets the 1+1/+1 counter and you draw a card, but it still has the voyage counter on it. Then next turn, your upkeep, you choose to exile it. It already has 1 voyage counter on it. You drop a land, it gets a second. I think that's how that would work. If it's not, let me know in the comments below if I'm misunderstanding that, but I'm pretty sure the voyage counters stay on it as long as it doesn't go to the graveyard. Correct me in the comments. But the other side, the Omen Keel is a vehicles matter kind of line. It wants your vehicles to be connecting, and then when you do, you exile cards from your opponent and you can steal their lands, basically, which is okay. I'm not a huge fan of vehicles, but this could make vehicles decent, I guess. I don't know, I might try to, if I were to build a vehicle deck, this would probably go in it, since this is doing the thing I like for vehicles, which is it's actually doing something even if it isn't crude and it isn't a creature. Like, it actually has a powerful static effect. That's what I want from vehicles, is I want them to at least do something. If they aren't crude, they need to do something more than like, when this attacks, it does X. No, I'd rather it be that it's even if it's a minor effect of like other vehicles get +1/+1, or maybe I don't know, it creates 2 1/1 tokens when it ETBs. Like, I'd prefer that over, when this attacks, do create 2 treasure tokens. Well, I'd rather do other things with my creatures than crew a vehicle and then attack with, like, that's where I don't like vehicles, is where you have so many hoops to jump through to get a mediocre to good payoff, typically. So this having a good static effect on it that makes other vehicles better, it makes me more likely to play a vehicle deck. But I don't know what I'm going to do with Kozima and the Omen Keel yet. Where have you seen this used? Has it been effective, or is it something that's normally cut? Let me know in the comments below. Next we have Bloodline Pretender, Bredegard Stronghold, Nico Defies Destiny, Demon Bolt, Littjara Kinseekers, Icehide Troll, Undersea Invader, Draugr Recruiter, Broken Wings, Giant Ox, Hagi Mob, and Master Skald to round out the pack. Now for today's Pack 1 Pick 1. I think I'll give it to Quakebringer. It's just so splashy to me that it's hard to pass up. One, the ability to just make it so your opponents can't gain life is, that's kind of nice. It's a ribbon effect, but really what this is signpost for is giants, right? Since as long as you control a giant and Quakebringer's in the graveyard, it's upkeep ping is going to still happen, right? Normally, sure, it's going to ping your opponent if it's on the battlefield, but also if you have another giant on the battlefield and this is in the graveyard, it's still going to ping. I love that. It makes it so it's really hard for your opponent to deal with this effect if you're in a giant line, and that's exactly what this is going to signpost to me, is going into giants. And sure, those are typically a little on the pricey side, but I think that with this as a payoff, it's worth it going 3, maybe even 4 turns before you really have a lot of board presence, or any board presence, and then getting this on top of that, I think that more than makes up for it. So that's my pick one. There are other good cards in this pack, though, and if you have a different pick one than me, let me know in the comments below. But that's all for today, so thank you for cracking along with me. Be sure to check back tomorrow to crack open another pack.